The Times and Time Out. He was also the eco-auditor for BBC Two's It's Not Easy Being Green, ITV's How Green Is Your House, and Sky TV's Green Britain Week. His first book, Saving the Planet Without Costing the Earth, was on Amazon's top 10 environmental books for over a year, though I hope you all bought it from your local bookshop. In addition, he has been an activist in many environmental campaigns over the years, and we're really proud to welcome him here today.
Thank you very much, everybody. Yes, it's a wonderful world. And what we're here for today is to make sure it stays a wonderful world. We've heard from Fiona about what's happening at local level with really practical efforts, which is I really salute. We heard from Steve with the renewable energy world and the activist world, and we heard from Natalie what's happening at national level. But actually I want today to talk about we also are here at an international important event. It may seem strange standing in the mist in remote Cumbria, but we are on here today the front line of the survival of humanity. It's nothing less. The head of the UN 5 years ago said, this is an existential crisis. An existential crisis means the future of humanity is at stake. And he said we had to be cutting carbon emissions within 2 years, cutting emissions, not expanding emissions within 2 years. And we have failed to do that. And the global financial industry, much of it based in London, has continued to invest $5 trillion in new fossil fuels since the Paris Agreement. That is an act of crime, and a genocidal crime. And I want to say a few words to the police who are here today. You are here at a potential genocidal crime scene, but you're not here to prevent it. So I ask you, when you go home tonight and you speak to your family or partners or your friends, did you really come into the police to stop and inspect and spy on peaceful people trying to stop climate genocide? Because that's what you're doing here today. And my father was a policeman, and I was proud of what he did protecting the community. And this cameraman here filming me today, why are you filming a peaceful protest, wasting public money, when the criminals are in London investing in new coal, new oil and new gas that the world's top diplomat said is a genocidal crime? Yeah. Hey. And it's nothing that I say, I think shame on you guys, because when in the Second World War, lead up to it, saying that you're doing orders was not an excuse. And when the climate Nuremberg happens, you need to ask yourselves which side you guys were on. Because at the moment, the British police beating up people like Steve, arresting peaceful people marching in our streets in London, arresting people sitting in trees. To save and keep it a wonderful world is not what I understand the public duty of our police force to be. That's not what I came here to talk about today, but it presses my buttons when I see this ridiculous waste of public money surveilling and spying on peaceful people. What I really came obviously to talk about was the coal mine. This is not just a coal mine. This is the proposed first coal mine in the United Kingdom in 30 years. And it is actually setting us back to the 19th century, not the 20th century. And this site today that you guys have actually helped to bring attention to by organising today's event was not just in local news, national news this week. It was in international news. Adair Turner, not a known radical, former head of the CBI, the Confederation of British Industry, has been having meetings in India and China to encourage them to take action faster on climate. And the pushback that he's getting from the Chinese and Indian governments and business is that what about Whitehaven? What about the coal? You're opening a damn coal mine. And your Prime Minister has said, quote unquote, the British government intends to max out our oil, coal and gas. And you're here to actually look after us when we've got a genocidal criminal in Downing Street. The size of the crime is staggering, not just in terms of this coal, but the impacts globally. I woke up this morning, we had a really nice chat with Alan, who's organised today, and with Steve and Caroline, and woke up this morning, stuff going around in my head. And I said, oh God, I need to get my calculator out. You'd say, what's he talking about, calculator? The estimated carbon bomb that's behind this fence is 450 million tonnes of carbon. Now, Steve and I work in the renewable energy field and energy efficiency field. How many of people here knows what a tonne of carbon is? You don't. Well, half a tonne of carbon is what your home emits in a year for electricity. So I did the maths. I think it's 20, I can't remember exactly how many million people, I think it's 23 million homes there are in Britain. So if you do the maths, every person in Britain would have to turn off every single electrical implement and item in their home for 28 years, and we still wouldn't have saved the carbon that's stuck in this hole in the ground. That is how important and how absolutely criminal the idea that we would dig this up. You're absolutely right, it must stay in the ground. But I want to also talk a little bit about where we are. 8 years ago, as part of Occupy Democracy, I set up what I think was the very first civil disobedience action against new fossil fuels. Because let's face it, the first thing you do if you're genuine about climate is you stop drilling for new oil, coal and gas. If you're not stopping the new stuff, you can't take it seriously that you're genuinely going to do what's needed to save us. So back in 2015, I said, I did a protest outside Parliament by Gandhi's statue saying to criminalise investment in new fossil fuels. It's a crime against humanity, and the City of London must stop investing the billions that Barclays and Lloyds and the other criminal banks are investing in. Must stop it. Pardon?
Questions at the end, mate.
How did you get aided there?
Questions at the end.
Yeah, you come in a car, didn't you?
I have been, the last 15 months, I've been in a car once in 15 months. My transport is a bicycle, and I've been in the car once in 15 months. Thank you. So hopefully my answer helps you. How often have you been in a car? I've been in a car once. Thank you. It's nice to be able to say that. I actually did say to Alan, is there any way I could get here without using a car? And unfortunately there wasn't. I thought if I used 2 batteries for my e-bike, because it is definitely my first time in a car to come here, which is kind of ironic, isn't it? So, back in 2015, I organised this protest, and we sat in a little tent, and there were 60 police carried us off. And people didn't understand, what did we mean, new fossil fuels? It just didn't mean anything. They said, well, we have to have fossil fuels. And nowadays, thankfully, the people understand this is the front line. So, in 2018, I was with Steve again. We were one of the first 15 people arrested. I was the keynote speaker at the launch of Extinction Rebellion in 2018. I had the privilege of doing that. And Steve and I were the first 15 people who were arrested as part of Extinction Rebellion. And in the last 5 years since that arrest, thousands of people have been arrested around the world. Huge amount of protests have taken place. And I want to say, and this is difficult, we're not winning. We're not winning. It hasn't. I did not think 5 years later, after thousands of people are arrested, direct action around the world, amazing amount of action by people, we're not winning. We are winning public opinion.
Yes.
We are winning a public opinion is totally behind us. 71% or more, 80% of the public wants more action on climate. So why are we not winning? What strategically is going wrong? We have to do the community stuff, we have to do the politics stuff, we have to do the energy efficiency stuff, we have to do the protest stuff. But there's something missing. I remember reading a strategy document by the American petroleum industry, which I thought was the most amazing document I've ever read. You think that's mad? A climate activist praising the American petroleum industry. Why did I think it was amazing? Because it was a strategy document. It said, we want to defeat the Kyoto Treaty, how do we do it? And they set out the steps, and they set out what they had to do, who they had to get to do it, and what victory looks like. Who here has seen a strategy document for the climate movement? Hands up. There's millions of us, millions of organizations, millions of activists, millions of people, and what's our strategy? So I said, okay, nobody's done a strategy, so why can't I do one? So I came up with one. And I actually said, to do a strategy, you need to know your enemy and you need to know your friends, yeah? So I argue that there are 4 pillars to the fossil fuel economy. There's the oil companies and the coal companies who deliver the fossil fuels. There's the banks that fund it. There's a government that actually regulates it. And the 4th pillar of the fossil fuel economy is the media. The media gives the political and social permission for government, banks, and oil companies and coal companies to operate. What's on the other side? What's on the climate movement? We have spent our time over the last 30 years, I've been involved for over 30 years, we have spent our time trying to persuade civil society, business, and government to act, yeah? And we go to meetings and say, please cover us. Send us a journalist, get us on your program. But we've never actually realised it is the 4th estate is the most powerful pillar in our society supporting the fossil fueled economy. And I argue in my strategy that if we get that pillar of the fossil fueled economy to join the 3 pillars of the climate movement, becomes 4. I argue the other 3 pillars become us, join us, and we get 7 pillars. The banks will stop funding oil. They'll fund renewable energy and storage and community installation. The oil companies can become renewable energy companies. Ørsted's done it already. And the government will regulate to make sure that the renewable energy economy takes root and gets established within 7 years. So just a small little question. How do we get the 4th pillar to join the 3 pillars? That is the challenge that we face as a movement. And I argue there's around 100 people who head up the global media corporations who stand between us and a wonderful world surviving. And there's 8 billion of us and 100 of them. Is it really beyond human ingenuity and human resourcefulness for 8 billion to take our power from them to make sure we survive? And I want to actually give you a couple of examples of why I think my thesis is correct. When I've gotten back into activism, I got involved in local activism and protecting local park, and I got involved with Liberal Democrats. I ended up being local Liberal Dem councillor. So there is some political, I'm not a Lib Dem anymore, but there is some political violence here. And I ended up being on the board of the Liberal Democrats to try and advocate for environmental issues. Well, one thing I was passionate about, this is in the mid-90s, I was passionate about Europe. My soul is a European citizen. And the Lib Dems never campaigned on European issues in European elections. It really, really irritated me. So when I got onto the board, I said, the European election was coming up. I said, why? I said, we must campaign on European elections on European issues in this election. I don't care what your view on Europe is. This is the political point I'm trying to make around media. The head of campaigns turned around to me and said, Donnachadh, we can't campaign in European issues because Murdoch would destroy us. So think what that means. In mid-1990s, the most pro-European party was terrified of campaigning on European issues in a European election because an Australian and American billionaire might trash us. You think we live in a democracy? Rubbish, it's a Murdochracy. There's around 5 media billionaires who are dictating the agenda in this country, no matter what Natalie does in Parliament. Dominic Cummings, when he got up and spoke to the Parliament Committee, he said to the Parliament Committee, don't take my word for it, Dominic Cummings told Parliament that the first thing Boris Johnson did every day was he got up and looked at the billionaire tabloid front pages and took his orders accordingly. And the final example I want to give to you. Natalie will know last year, under Boris Johnson, there was an energy review. So I run a little thing called Climate Media Coalition to try and encourage the climate movement to prioritise focusing on the climate, on the media column, because we need them on board. And so we did a little experiment. We did research, we got people to research. In the 2 or 3 months before the energy strategy was announced by Boris Johnson, we did 2 things. On around 8 issues on climate, we looked at what did the opinion polls say, what did the editorials and comment pages in the tabloids say, and then what did the energy strategy do. So there were things like, we looked at policy on solar, onshore wind, offshore wind, fusion, nuclear, fracking, coal, and energy efficiency insulation. Out of the eight policy areas, public opinion was on our side on every single one of them by large majorities. There was only one of those items that the billionaire media supported, and that was offshore wind. Big box, big corporations make money, so they like that. So we like it, they like it, that's fine. When the government's energy strategy got published, the only one from the 8 items that the public supported that made it into the energy strategy was
Offshore wind.
I rest my case. No matter how much we get public opinion on our side, they are on our side. We've won that. And also, I'm sure Natalie would tell you behind the scenes, the majority of Tory MPs are on our side on many of these issues. And many of them are. I know from a party political point of view, that's a hard thing to say. But if you look at the membership of SEN, the Conservative Environmental Network, most of them are on our side on many, many issues, but there's around 40 Tory MPs who are the UKIP extreme climate denialists, and they're the ones on the front page of the Mail, the Sun, GB News and Talk TV, and they're dragging the entire policy agenda over to destroying climate. We've gone backwards on climate in the last 5 years, including Mark Jenkinson, who's obviously one of the worst. Absolutely. And top thing you can do is, what Alan was saying, is get rid of Mark Jenkinson locally. Absolutely, absolutely. So, what I want to finish up is to say that it's an appeal to you, is think collectively how you can help tackle this. We've set up a small thing on our website where you click on the thing and it takes you an email directly to some of these 100 people globally that actually demand the action from them. But think, what can we as a movement collectively do to get the most important pillar on our side? So I want to finish with 3 cheers for what you guys are doing here on Whitehaven thing. So 3 cheers for the anti-coal movement. Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Thank you so much and keep the fight up. We'll win.
Well, there must be some questions after that.